Hi, my name is Dean Brown, designer of Spruance Leader, a game to be released from TVG. Working on my prototype. Thought I would shoot an encounter that I have with an enemy convoy. I did post on Facebook um, some first two encounters that I had for the mission, where my task force started here, and I worked my way up to intercept the enemy convoy task force. On the way up, there were several naval units that were dispersed in the North Atlantic, and then based on a movement chart where they move every turn, and I moved my task force, I ended up getting intercepted twice, once by two subs, and the second time by a couple of ships and subs. And I got through those encounters, and now I'm up and have intercepted my enemy convoy. That's my primary target. So like I said, I'm doing the North Atlantic skirmishes campaign, fairly easy. And you can see that it has each of my task force ships have skill levels similar to the leader series, and I give a campaign evaluation. So I am on my first target. So I intercepted the convoy. It specifies what ships I'm going to be facing. So I have number one is my Utility destroyer, and number two is the Sovereignty class ship, and then my cargo ships 3, 4, and 5 over here. And then there's two subs, and so based on my starting range roll, I placed my subs, and then a secondary roll to determine what column they're in. You can see that I do have a sub at range 4, an unknown sub, and everything else is at range 5. Basically, there's a modifier for placement to determine where it ends up on the starting range. My task force, I have two ships as a screening force, my Spruance class destroyer, and my Ticonderoga and Antietam. Because they're screening forces, they are fast, which means they get to act before the enemies do. However, they do suffer 2 stress per encounter. Also, there's 3 chits and draw chits for these 2 ships, so that when the enemy goes to attempt to detect, they're more likely, these 2 are more likely to be drawn than the main force, which is my other 3 ships here, frigates and my cruiser. They're slow, which means they operate after the enemy. They suffer 1 stress per encounter, and there's 2 chits in the cup for each one of these. And then I don't have any supporting or protected forces. This might be where my supply ships go. The convoy ships, the carrier might be back here. So they don't have any actions. They have a -1 stress because they're tucked back in the corner here. And then there's 1 chit for each one of these. My task force, I mentioned I did have a couple of encounters. So these are my 2 screening forces. They suffered 2 stress for each encounter. So my Ticonderoga is at stress 4, which is still okay. It's less than 5, or 5 or less. My Spruance destroyer has a cool of 1, which means they only suffered 1 stress per encounter. And then my 3 main force ships, cruiser Sterret, which is my flagship, Oliver Hazard Perry frigate, which is right on the cusp of okay, and my Knox class frigate, which is, again, this is a newbie, so it's right on the cusp of okay, but all of them are okay. They all have armaments, so missiles and ASROCs, which basically fires torpedoes out in front of the ship to attack detected ships. Harpoons have a range of 4, and then the Ticonderoga has some TASMs, which has a range of 6. So I have some of those, and some harpoons and ASROCs for that. Okay, so get started on. I'm on turn 5, battle turn 5. So based on this deployment, see, the Sovereign class ship is probably the most dangerous because it has 2 contacts, which means it can attempt to detect 2 of my ships and attack 2 of my ships, whereas the rest of these only attack once, but they're not in weapons range except for the Ticonderoga. And I do have an enemy sub here, which actually is pretty dangerous because it has a noise management number of -2, which makes it harder to detect. -2 modifier, and it can detect my ships on a 4 or better. This one is noise management of 0, which is fairly easy to detect. So I'm going to focus on detecting this sub here. So I'm going to use my Fletcher destroyer. So it has a +1 modifier for subs. It needs a 4 or a 6 to detect. Out to range 4, which is where this one is. And I get a +1 detect because I'm screening force. So I have a +2 modifier, and it goes against the -2 modifier, so no modifier, and I rolled a 6, which means that the sub is detected at detection level 2. Just nice. Got lucky on that. Now, I don't know what it is, so let's flip this over. So 1 is neutral, so I roll die. 1 is neutral. 2 to 6 is enemy. 7+ is a neutral ship. And I rolled a 3, which means enemy sub. So put that in. And I have a kilo. So I am going to put that there. And where is my enemy sub 1? Oh, there it is. So it is sub number 1, kilo diesel. And I'm going to put it here. It's at detect level 2, so I get a die modifier of +2. Alright, so my Fletcher is done. Now I have my Antietam, like a couple of options. I can attempt to detect some ships, or I could attempt to attack and attempt to destroy the kilo. It has a pretty good shot at detecting my ships, and it attacks with 2 torpedoes if it does detect. So I'm going to fire one of my ASROCs. Actually, I'm going to fire 2 of my ASROCs, so I can fire a volley. So the first one is normal, and the second one is +1 modifier. I need a 6 or higher. Roll a 2, miss, and I rolled a 5. So I do get a +1 for attack and a +1 for my sub. And it has a torpedo defensive +1, which means that's not good. So I did hit with my second ASROC, and the kilo can only take 1 hull damage, so it's sunk. So let's remove that. Alright, so my 2 fast ships I managed to detect and then sink the kilo. So now I'm going to roll, and I rolled a 3. which means our ships are patrolling. Let's see, 3 plus 2 is 5. Yeah, so that's still patrol. 3 plus 2 is 5. These are minus 2, so 0. They're still, so everything's, yeah, everything's patrolling. Get rid of that. So the good news is they're at range 5, so I am out of weapons range. Range 4. So the Utaloy, oh, I can't detect out to range 6. So let's draw. Utaloy, draw that, and it's a 5. And Sovereign, draw 2 chits. It has a contact value of 2. Alright, so this is going to go after my frigate Paul, USS Paul. And so Remney is going to attempt to detect my Tycho and my Sterret, which is my command ship. Alright, so we are going to roll a 1, so this is not detected. And let's see, let's roll 2 die. Blue is the high one, and it detects on a 4 or 7, and roll a 4 and a 5, so it's detected both of these. Luckily, only at detect level 1. So let's take a look at the Sovereign. It attacks with missiles. It ranges 2 to 4, which it's currently at range 4. And it attacks either 1 to 7, roll die, 1 to 7 attacks with 1 missile, 8 to 10 it attacks with 2 missiles. So 7 for here. So it's going to attack my Antietam. Roll a 5. My Antietam does have a missile defense of -2, which is good. And by the way, because it's part of my screening forces, I can use that missile defense value for any attack against any of my ships. So that 5 is modified down to 3, and it's a miss. All right, that's good. Now let's look for this. So roll a 10, which means that it's going to attack my Sterret with 2 missiles. One's a miss, and this one is 9, 8, 7. So it is a hit. 1 missile. So hits on a 7. So not good. So my command ship is hit with a missile. So it does suffer a hull damage, and I lose an action, so it's not going to activate that turn. And so luckily my cruiser can suffer up to 3 hull damages. Right now it's at 1, but she's on the first turn already. All right. So because it's detected these 2, they're going to stay detected. My enemy sub. It is detect 4. Let's draw and see. It's going to attempt to detect. So my frigate, Oliver Hazard Perry, And he rolls a 5, so he does detect my frigate. He has a noise modifier of +1, so yeah. So I add the noise modifier, so that is definitely a detection. That's 6. So again, I'm going to flip this over and roll, and it's a 5. So yep, it's definitely a sub there too. And I draw another sub card. Let's call that sub 1 again, and that is a Sierra. Uh-oh. So SSN. So it has a noise modifier and torpedo defense of -1. 2 hull points worth of damage, so I have to hit it twice to sink it. It does only have 1 contact, and it can attack with 1 or 2 torpedoes. Alright, so this is at the tech level 1. Now is that in range though? Oh, that's why I didn't draw 1 for it, because okay, it's in range to detect, but it's not in range to attack. So no attacks this turn. Alright, so that's the end of the enemy turn. So I have a couple of detections here that I have to worry about on the Sovereign and the Sierra, which is pretty tough sub. It is got my Oliver Hazard Perry frigate in its sights, but it can't attack yet. It's not in torpedo range. Alright, so now it's my slow action, slow ship turns. So I don't get an action here for my Starret because it lost the turn. So I have my 2 frigates. So I want to determine what I want to do for those. So I can't detect my subs because it's still too far out of range. Needs to be range 1 through 3. I have a helicopter, but I can't launch it because I got some ships that are going to detect it and shoot it down. So I am going to, I guess I'll try to attempt to detect the Sovereign. I have a ship -1, ship -1 modifier here, and a ship -2 modifier here. So roll a 6, -1, and then whatever noise modifier, which is noise management, is 0, so no modifier there. So I do actually detect it at level 1. That detection is shared across all of the ships. Let's see, I have harpoons, but it's at range 5, so I will just go ahead and try to attack or detect this. So 9 -2 is 8, 7. So I do detect it. I add 1 level higher, which means that this is detect level 2. All right, so that's the end of the first turn. Slide this down to, I have 4 turns left. So now, whenever I end a turn, the detection levels drop by 1. So these are detect 0 now, which means that there's no die modifier for attacks. And then my detection drops down to 1 as well. So I have this ship detected, but it's only level 1 now. So +1 modifier, these have 0. And you get 0 modifiers if he attacks here. All right. I do have my commander action there, which I have 1 action per turn. I guess I didn't take an action that turn, but just go ahead and do a move task force action. So that would move all of these. I guess I should have done that earlier, huh? Up 1. All right. So now they're all in. They're in weapons range of all my missiles. Although still this one's out of detection range. It has to be at level range 3. All right. 2 fast ships. They're at range 4. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Use my Spruance. It has a ship of 0. RGM 84. Replace that with 4 of these. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 more. This is pretty much my most dangerous ship. And I have some harpoons, so I'm going to fire 3. Again, I'm firing a missile volley, so I get normal roll +1 and +2 for my 3rd one. The Sovereignty has a missile defense of 0, which is good. And I get a +1 attack because of my screening force. And I get no modifier for ship attacks. So let's roll a 4, which is +1 to 5, so that's a hit. Looks like, wow. Just for fun. Okay, I rolled a 2 and a 10. So I fired 3 missiles. First one hit, so that's kind of a waste. But he's sunk. So let's take him off the board. So if he's not detected, these 2 go back in the cup. All right, so my Ticonderoga, my sub is at range 4. And I can attempt to detect him. So we'll do that. 7 + 1 + 1, so that's 9, which means that the sub is detected and detected at level 2. All right, fortunately that's all I got. Okay, so I pulled in, okay, so that's the end of my fast turns. So now it's the enemy turn. So surface, rolled a 9. So 9, 10, 11. So this one's moving up. All of my ships have a movement of -2, so that's 7, so they're all moving up. And then the sub has a movement of 0. So it can flank or move up. So it can flank here. So it's going to move off to the side. Bad news is that it now gets an attack of +1 because it's approaching the flank. And let's see, sub. It can only attack on a range of 1, 2, or 3. So it's not in torpedo range. However, this one is in range. So it's going to go after my Fletcher. Roll a 7. And so 6 or 8. And the Fletcher has a 0 noise management, so no modifier there. So 7. So it detected it at level 1. And it's definitely in range. So 1 to 8, 1 missile, 2, 9 or 10, 2 missiles. Well, 6, so that's 1 missile. So it's going to fire a missile at a ship. 6 or 9 on the attack. And my Ticonderoga here again is protecting my task force. So -2 missile defense means I subtract 2. Rolled a 7, which is modified down to a 5. Whoops, which is a hit. All right. Uh-oh. That is not good. So he hit my Fletcher, and it's destroyed. So he's gone. Wow, that really sucks. And then that's it for the rest. No more attacks. Let's see, did I do a detection roll for him? I didn't. Roll a 1, so not detection, not detected. At the detection 0, so he's not going to attack. All right. So that leaves my 3 other ships. So he is not detected, so I can't fire at him. Here's a ship of -1, -1. Let's see, 5, 8, 6, 8, 6, 9, -2. So I'm gonna see if I can detect him here with my frigate. So 5, 8 with a -1 modifier, and noise management 0. Not detected. All right, let's try the stare at 9. So it has a -1 of 8. So it is detected at level 2. All right. So 1 ship left at this turn. And I have some missiles here, so I'm going to fire all 3. Actually, I still have to take out some cargo ships. So I'm going to fire 2. And let's see, missile defense of 0. And here's a ship modifier -2. So I think I'm going to fire 3. So the first one is normal, -2. So 5, 4, 3, that's a miss. Next one is a +1. 7 -2 is 5, +1 is 6. So that's a hit, which means that he is taken out. Which is good. So we got revenge on him for sinking my Spruance destroyer. Let's put that back. All right, and again I have one more action for my task force commander. My sub is at range 4, And I only have one fast ship left, or one fast ship. And I can attack at range Azrox, attack at range 4. Alright, so I'm not going to move them in, but so I'm going to end the turn there and reduce, so that goes away. Lost detection on my Oliver Hazard Harry. Alright, so that's the end of the turn. It's going to go down to 3. And I already reduced detection levels. He still detect 1. So I am going to use my Tycho. I have 2 Azrox left. These are going to hit. I do have a sub +1 here, and I have a +1 attack. I need a 6 or higher, and so I have a +2 modifier on the first one and a +3 modifier on the second one. So that one's a miss. That one is a hit. However, shoot, that's only 1. So he's damaged. Okay. That's the end of my fast ship's turn. Roll of 1. It's not an SSK, so it's just patrol, so he's going to stay there. And my ships are going to stay where they are. Let's see, what battle turn was that? Did I reduce this? I think I did. Yeah. Alright, so he doesn't have any ships detected. 2. So he rolls a 9. So he does detect my Tycho. And it has a noise modifier 1, so you can add 1. So he's detected it at level 2. Alright. See how many torpedoes. So 1 torpedo. The only good thing is that he has an attack of -2. He rolls a 5, 4, 3. So that is definitely a miss. I guess he'd fire a missile. But it's still -2 attack. So no hit. Alright. So I got 3 more ships that get to act. So I have 4 Azrox here. 3, 4. So I'm going to fire 3. I have enough. So a 9 hits, even though, alright, so I have a -1 modifier here. But the torpedo defense is +1. So yeah, so that's a hit. And that means that's the second hit on the sea area, so he's gone. Alright. Out. Damaged. Detected. Alright. So I have my 3 cargo ships left. They all have missile defense values of +2, which means they're going to be pretty easy to hit. Still have 2 more turns. So, and I have plenty of missiles. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume for the purposes that they're sunk. So they're done. Alright, that's the end of the encounter. For this encounter, I get 3 VPs, 1 for each sunk cargo ship. So it was a high price to pay for cargo ships, though, because I lost my Spruance destroyer. It's gone. So my next mission is definitely going to be harder. My next target, I do have SO points that I can use to purchase other ships and ordnance for the next target. So I'm going to have to balance that out. I'm probably not going to be able to afford another Spruance class destroyer because it costs 18 and I only have 30 SO points. So that's really bad. So anyway, that's the end of that mission. I guess mission success, again with the caveat that I lost one of my ships. I do add stress onto each of my ships, so they suffer additional stress, and that'll be factored in for the next mission. All right, thanks. That's counter for Spruance Leader prototype for DVG. Thanks.